presentation, please welcome our second keynote speaker, Prof. Cheng Ming from Universiti Tunku Abdul Rahman, Malaysia. Prof. Cheng Ming is currently a professor of economics in Faculty of Accountancy and Management, director of the Institute of Management and Leadership Development, and chairperson of the Belt and Road Strategic Research Center at Universiti Tunku Abdul Rahman, Malaysia. Okay, and for now, Prof. Cheng Ming will bring the topic, the economic implication of COVID-19 pandemic. Let's give an applause for Prof. Cheng Ming, and the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prince Charles. And good morning, everyone, and good evening to Dr. Lei from America. Okay, so today my topic is on the economic implications of COVID-19 pandemic. Actually, my talk will be the part one of the story, and I believe Professor Madeline, who will speak later, she will actually discuss more on the implications from other perspectives. So I will give generally a very broad ideas about this COVID-19 pandemic and what are the implications, basically from the economic perspective. Of course, the pandemic, the COVID-19 brings with it the implications in various aspects, not only on economics, okay, including environmental, and also social, political. There are many other challenges here. So we actually focus more on the economic implications in general, and I'll look at more on the global, and some of the focus will be on the some of the ASEAN countries. So this will be the subtopics for my talk. So let's look at the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 pandemic. It is really a challenge for the global economy, because this pandemic is introducing unprecedented challenges in terms of the pandemic shock itself, and also the associated shocks, for instance, the economic shocks, social shocks that brought with the this outbreak of this pandemic. Of course, we know that this COVID-19 basically started from the early of the year. For the past 6 months, the speed of the spread and also the coverage, as well as the death of the virus, coronavirus itself, actually is bringing a lot of challenges from the public health perspective. But more importantly, I think the challenges stems from the restrictive measures, the control measures to contain the outbreak of this virus. And most of us has experienced a lockdown period in your respective countries. And so it has actually changed every aspect of our life, including our consumptions, our behavior in consuming, productions. We had to work from home, and then we had to actually learn from home as well. So from kitchens to living rooms, so everywhere, I think we are actually connected online through these different methods. So it's changed our lifestyle in a way or another. So, but the spread of this the coronavirus or the COVID-19 actually is not, we have not really seen the end yet. And in fact, I just downloaded this information yesterday. This was for July 19. The numbers actually, it has kept on increasing. And just based on the statistic that I collected from Saturday's July 18, it seems that every hour globally, there will be about 10,000 confirmed cases. So actually in Malaysia, we are also seeing the possibility of the second wave coming back. So we started to see the double-digit confirmed cases the past few days. Before that, actually, we are quite happy that we can only see the very low numbers of the cases in Malaysia. So that was why I was in an urgent meeting just now, because we are discussing like our university. Actually, we are preparing for opening. So hopefully we can contain and not going to experience this second wave in the region. Okay. So as you can see, the numbers is not really declining over the time. So this actually has created a lot of impacts in various aspects. So just look at education. You can actually see that most of the countries or most of the governments worldwide has closed the schools, from primary, secondary, even to the university level. So the university, the school closure is quite common, especially during this end of March and early April period. About 90% of the students actually have to study at home or not able to go to school. Of course, that actually have seen the surge of this online teaching and learning. So we have to learn very quickly how to conduct online classes through the various online platforms, like attending this kind of webinar through Zoom or using the Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, Hangout, etc. So this online teaching and learning actually become something like a norm, something that is quite common to us. But of course, the closures of the schools has implication, not only economically, but also social consequences. So these are the issues that we are going to discuss. And this is actually the mobility, the record that collected by this company called Our World in Data. And they use the Google Maps to collect the movement of the people. So I just actually share a few here to show how is the movement or the mobility of the economic activities actually has changed over the different periods. So you can, I just collected a few countries in ASEAN. This shows the number of visitors in the transit stations, which include the bus stations, subway, train stations, etc. And you can see that the numbers of the people in the transit actually is the lowest around, as I said just now, and you have the highest numbers of school being closed due to this pandemic, the COVID-19 outbreak. So actually the numbers also is quite low during this period, the number in the transit stations. But of course you can see that Vietnam actually opening up quite soon. Vietnam so far has shown the strength and stability in weathering the COVID-19 storm pretty well. And the country was among the first to lift virtually most of the domestic containment measures. Okay, so followed by Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, and Philippines. Philippines, I think they are still in the quarantine stage now. So the number of people that is in transit has been slowly recovering when we are moving into the recovering phase. But as I said, we are actually preparing for the recurring of this pandemic. Hopefully, we are not going to see that to happen. But on the other side, you can see that the time that we spend at home also is a reverse trend with the number of people in the transit stations. Of course, that again shows that most of the people are spending time more time at home now compared to before, okay, the outbreak of this pandemic. And we are basically doing most of our economic activities at home through the virtual world. So that's why you can also see that the online activities actually increase significantly. So I think we all have experience before, even before that, we may not be buying things online. Like for me, I seldom really buy or shop online, but during this period, I have to really go for online shopping as well. So the online activity, actually, the volumes have increased significantly during this period of time. So what are the consequences of this? So basically, economic activities and economic prosperities, is closely related to the mobility and the connectivity of the factor of productions, the labels, the capitals, technology, information, etc. So during the lockdown periods, or when the governments implemented all the different restrictions measures to contain this outbreak of the COVID-19, you can see that actually it created major contractions of this economic activity through limiting the mobility and the connectivity. So the supply shocks and the demand shocks introduced by this COVID-19 is making this pandemic something different than other recessions that we are experiencing. Most of the time, if we see the recessions, let's say financial crisis or the oil crisis, it affects either the supply side or the demand side. But this time, we see that both sides, the demand and supply sides, being affected. And it affects the productions, the consumptions simultaneously. So that's why it introduced the challenges that we have never experienced before. Okay, So this is data that presented by World Bank in the recent report on the World Bank Global Economic Prospect, published just recently in June 2020. You can see that this graph shows a percentage of the countries or the economies that will be in recessions. So of course, the previous one that the highlights actually is the 1930s, the Great Depression. But in fact, the World Bank is expecting that this pandemic is going to cause more economies to be in the contractions or in the recessions situations. Okay, so and this most of the economy, especially the emerging and the developing economies, will experience more compared to more advanced economy, because they're actually experiencing two types of pressures. One is the domestic pressures to contain the pandemic, and also another is external spillover effects from the slowdown or the recessions from other countries. Okay, so this is what I have really roughly estimate how the World Bank data give us a pictures on how the economy may develop in the next 2 years based on the forecasted data. Of course, as I mentioned just now, among the ASEAN countries, Vietnam seems to be developing relatively well compared to other countries, because they're able to contain the outbreak domestically and also be able to lift the control measures relatively faster. And this, the world actually is already expected to be in a recession, and Malaysia and Indonesia, basically the growth rate is 0% for the expected for 2020. So that means it's not really a recession, but it will be maybe zero growth. But Malaysia, we're expecting to have a minus growth rate, and Thailand as well. So this estimate is still considered quite optimistic, okay? Considering that the outbreak, we can actually we can uplift all the control measures by mid of the year. This is based on this forecast that this estimation was calculated. But in case the COVID outbreaks persist or restrictions on the movement have to be extended or reintroduced, I think there will be more disruptions to the economic activities, and the recession could be extended or reintroduced. So that's why it's still very uncertain at this stage how our economy may develop in the near future. And in terms of unemployment, of course, we know that many people are losing their job now, okay? And this is really not something that we have experienced before. The job losses is quite serious, and especially in emerging and also the developing economies, okay? Because we are more badly hit during this crisis period. Okay. So what are the changes that we could observe, and what are the implications from it? So many people are saying that a new norm is emerging. So what is this new normal? The way how we live, how we work, how we socialize is going to be changed, and not only change for temporarily, but I believe it's going to change structurally and also permanently. Okay, so the social distancing and also how we are actually going to do our normal, what we should do and how we should do our things might be changing. So this actually leads us to focus on a few aspects. Of course, as I said, there are many areas that we can look at, but I'm just looking at 4 important aspects for the discussions due to the time limitation that I have. First, I think very obviously, the digitization is a trend. So we all have to go to this. So this Professor J has mentioned about all these technologies, the digital one. So I think this is the technology adoptions and digitizations would be something that we cannot avoid. So most of our aspect of our life actually has already moved online. So
Prof. Cheng, I'm sorry to interrupt. Prof. Cheng.
Yeah, my time is out, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to remind you.
Okay, so I will just go very quickly this part. So that's why basically we are going to expect this digitization to happen, and business has to go very quickly into the innovations that we cannot assume business as usual anymore. Of course, we are going to see that the supply chain is going to be affected. Many people are saying that globalization is going to an end. Personally, I don't think that will be the case. there could be some changes in the structures of the supply chain. Companies may want to go more closer to their home markets, so more localization may be observed, and some may actually develop into the new digitization of the supply networks. But I don't think globalization is going to end, but we are going to see a new form of the development of the globalization. The reason why I say globalization is not going to end is because globalization basically depends on the global value chain, the global supply chain, and that very much depending on the efficiency. So firms, it's a very complicated interactions, the link among the producers for different countries, and you cannot just cut the link as this is. Okay, so maybe I will just skip this part, okay? So actually, basically, in terms of how we see the post-COVID recovery, there are many actually assumptions, either whether we are going to follow a V-shaped recovery, which is deep but brief, or U-shaped, even after we unlift this all the measures, whether the economy will proceed, or W or L. W is assuming that there will be second wave or there will be a second round of the impact. L is more permanent recessions. Okay, so as a conclusions, I think the biggest problems that we experience now is that we are not certain. The uncertainty is really a problem for us to understand what is happening and what we should do. So I think appropriate policy responses is very important. We need to know how we deal with the pandemic, the dynamic interactions between pandemic shocks and economic and other shocks as well. And looking at the change in the problems that we are facing now, because mainly of the supply chain, I think we have to look into more on how we should form more regional policy coordination to develop a more stable global supply chain and a global value chain. And a fundamental structural change or reform is unavoidable. That's why I said we are now entering a period called Great Reset. It's not really a gradual change, but we're expecting a more radical change. So the government, the business sectors, and every one of us should play a role in developing or in overcoming the challenges that we're experiencing now. Okay, I think that's all that I have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Cheng Ming Yu from